Hey everybody, you are listening to the History Boys. I'm Christopher Whedon, and as usual, am I'm the number one history boy today. You know.
I'm Tyler Armentrout, history boy here. I've been a little bit distracted lately. If any of our viewers at home or anybody has been receiving Instagram follows from somebody named Keith Spunk, and it's my picture, and don't follow him. It's a troll account. It'll take you to a Fansly where there's a guy who looks a lot like me, performing various sexual acts, and it's once again not me. It's I don't know if Keith Spunk is the guy's real name and he's using my picture, if the whole thing's made up. I think the whole thing's bogus, personally, and so if you see it, just report it, get it out of there. It's really got my whole world turned upside down. My wife wants to know what's going on with Keith Spunk, and
it's gonna be a deep fake situation.
Yeah, Tyler Armstrong, history boy.
And I am Jerry Nash, your humble history boy. As always, thank you so much for listening. Today we have a fan request. You voted on this round of requests. We're going to do that again. But the one that ended up winning was the Hawaiian annexation by the United States. It's going to be at least a two-part series, I think. And I've had a extra week on this, so that was nice. It's it's kind of a crazy topic.
Right.
So
it's got a slice of pineapple right on top. It's Hawaiian.
Yeah. And thank you for also being patient with us, as there was no episode last time, I guess, because we were dealing with a lot of things. We had, I had some dental surgery, and we
Did you get those things yanked out?
No, I'm also gonna have that happen as well. It's a whole thing that I gotta do.
Yeah,
anyway,
all the history boys were at a wedding, so that was fun.
We were all at a wedding.
Yep.
Friend of our show, Mr. Max, got married to his wife Rachel, and congratulations to them. Indeed, we had a great time. On January 16th, 1893, the monarchy of the sovereign nation of Hawaii was overthrown by a small group of rich haole, which is the Hawaiian term for white person, right?
Oh, okay.
Because we're always howling.
Yeah. Sometimes it's specifically directed at the white people that live there. You know what I mean?
Oh.
And they had the help with doing this. 162 United States Marines and sailors. So the United States was involved in this overthrow of the monarchy of this sovereign nation. Certainly wouldn't be the last time, I'll tell you that. Now, these haole sugar barons, to avoid paying high tariffs on sugarcane, illegally and forcibly deposed the queen, and it became a republic, this sort of interim government that we're going to talk about later, with no native Hawaiians in any place of power. Now, this was done with the expressed purpose in mind to become the property of the United States, mainly for military and somewhat trade purposes. It was a bit of a quid pro quo styled situation, and this is going to be that story of how all of that happened.
Kind of sounds like a quid Puerto Rico.
Right.
Nice.
Yeah.
A little bit.
Imperialism was what it is. Yeah. Imperialism. Now, real quick, before we get into the story, let's talk about our sources real quick. I picked up the tome, the giant, dense, daunting book, Hawai'i by James Michener. He's a revered writer. This is a revered book. I didn't go through the whole thing. I went through certain parts of it, right? It was too much for me to tackle in that time.
I was gonna actually ask you if I could borrow the book when you're done with it. I was gonna prop up this 78 pacer that I got and do some engine work on it, and I just needed something that was gonna keep it real steady, really jack it up, nice one, getting on there, listen to some Foghat,
absolutely.
You know how it goes.
Eric the Red style.
Yeah, Eric the Red style, absolutely.
Our next source is Lost Kingdom by Julia Flynn Seiler. This book is basically exactly about what we're talking about today. They go into all the detail, stuff that we won't have time to get into. This book absolutely does. One of our main sources is Hawaii's Story by Hawaii's Queen by Liliuokalani, who was indeed Hawaii's queen. It's written by her. It's really good, and you really get a sense of who she was and the type of person she was, and she really goes into her side of things, basically, and why she did the things that she did. And truly a remarkable person. We're mainly going to be talking about her in the next episode because I really want to go into depth in that. Her story is pretty unique, I think, in the annals of history, because it was done sort of without the Hawaiian people's consent, and the United States actually admitted that later. But we'll get into it. Let's get into it. Now, this story could begin in a lot of different places. It could begin with James Cook as the first white man to ever set foot on Hawaii. But that's the story for a different day, right?
Right.
Or maybe we could begin when King Kamehameha I united the islands and became the first king of Hawaii. Maybe we could start there.
Did King Kamehameha use his special move, the Kamehameha wave, to...
No, I was thinking, I was thinking the same thing. I was like... Yes, Dragon Ball.
Yeah. There's going to be a lot of...
He learned it from Master Roshi.
Get used to it. There's going to be a lot of Kamehamehas that we're going to talk about here.
He wears a turtle shell and is a pervert.
Was this guy a pervert? Jerry, tell us if the king was a pervert.
No, he had many wives.
Sounds like a pervert to me.
Yes.
No.
He had many wives.
That was the culture.
That he constantly told he was not interested in them sexually. This isn't a perversion.
No,
he's there for their minds, literary, book references.
Podcast recommendation.
He's like, at least 3 of you got to be good at Super Smash Brothers. Because I don't got any friends. It's lonely at the top.
It's lonely at the top.
Well, I think the best place to begin is when the missionaries arrived. Right after Captain Cook, there were almost constant, people going back to either trade or, there was Vancouver, there was all these things to go back and trade with the islands. And, the whaling industry, it didn't take long for them to show up there and have a resupply area. And it kind of became this sort of resupply kind of hub, and people kind of left. The diaspora was created from this type of thing.
So when you say that it was a trading outpost, were people trading disparate peoples coming there to trade things that weren't local to the island, or were people coming there to trade things from the island and the outside? Both. I mean, the way the cities popped up, people were trading things from outside the island to get things from the island, and vice versa,
Mm-hmm.
As long as they don't take any of that volcano, I heard if you take the volcano ash, it fucking ruins your life. That's what I hear.
Yeah.
Those volcanoes are
haunted.
Sacred.
Haunted, yes. Haunted, there you go.
Haunted. I didn't mean mine as a joke.
I saw a Dayline NBC, and this guy, he took a little bit back, and the gods went after him hard.
Oh yeah, dude.
No. When the missionaries arrived, these are Protestant missionaries from New England. Mm-hmm. When they arrived, they arrived in 1820. Of course, what happened to the native Hawaiians was the same thing that sort of happens to a lot of indigenous populations. Unfortunately, when they meet outside forces, they die. of
Yeah.
disease that they're not immune to, right?
Mhm.
So their numbers dwindle alarmingly.
What do we
Right.
got this time? Smallpox again?
Well, by 1840, well, yeah, smallpox and measles. Those were two of the biggest.
Syphilis.
Tuberculosis.
Chris?
Consumption.
Okay. Good.
Yep,
All right.
yep.
Come on. We have
Come
a
on,
brand
pal.
here.
Yeah.
I know.
Do your fucking
I
part.
know.
By
fucking up.
1840, their population was down 84% from
Whoa.
where it was estimated to have been prior to Cook's arrival, and ever since Cook's arrival, it had been going down. You know
The
what
good
I mean?
news
Mhm.
is that
What?
it was so cheap to get an apartment. It was cheap to get an apartment, a lot of room to put your feet up, get all your stuff out. Just,
Something that's not true anymore.
yeah.
On the islands.
Sounds like we could use a little Captain Cook over here in Seattle, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Yikes. Now, on paper, Hawaii was kind of a British territory for a long time. You know, they ran up the Union Jack and they played God Save the Queen as their national anthem, but that was pretty much it. There was nothing else Great Britain really laid claim to in Hawaii, and they didn't really take care of it or look after it or really anything like that. So it was sort of in name only with some pageantry around it. You know what I mean?
The English love pageantry.
Yeah.
They tried putting a fried tomato and some baked beans on their Loco Moco, and it just didn't taste this. Thank God that shit didn't stick.
Yeah.
Loco Moco is delicious.
Oh, it's so good.
Also, spam mousse at beet. You ever have that?
Oh yes,
I haven't.
absolutely.
I've had a lot of spam sliders.
I thought it was masubi.
I don't know, man.
I'm gonna fuck up a lot of Hawaiian language things on this because it's difficult for me to pronounce,
Yeah.
and that's actually kind of sort of long-standing problem Hawaii has always really had with the haole, right? Is that they have a hard time sort of pronouncing and speaking their language. So I apologize in advance.
They're gonna send Dog the Bounty Hunter after you. Is he still?
Is he like Hawaii base?
I mean, he lives there.
Okay.
That's
I
where
don't
his
know
show
if I knew
took
that.
place.
I did not know that. These first missionary families that landed in like companies, right? Much like the early colonists of North America, right? There were these companies that came. They believed it was their earthly duty to convert what they saw as the naked heathens into good, God-fearing, modest, repressed, and subservient Christians. That's what they were going to go turn them into, right?
Ruin everyone's good time.
Right.
Missionaries sound annoying as hell.
Yeah, and they were kind of brutal about it, of course.
They're like coming in and they're like, "Hey, have you guys ever considered not having fun ever?"
Yeah, right. And
Would
that's
you
kind of
like-
how it felt for a lot of like common Hawaiians.
Yeah.
you know?
Why can't
No
there
more of this
just
luau
be,
shit.
Yeah.
for once? I just want missionaries that are fun.
Yeah.
Literally, it's just like a bunch. The Church of David Lee Roth. They're like boobity beep bop boop bop. Fucking come in, scissor kicking with top hats. Fucking, dual wielding margaritas or something.
Oh fuck yeah.
Oh god, I can't fucking stand David Lee Roth.
Hey, he just wants to have a good time, man. He's Dr. Roxo, the rock and roll clown. He does cocaine. Or he did cocaine. I'd imagine he doesn't do as much cocaine as he used to.
Yeah, I don't know.
But
Yeah. So about these companies of people, they would usually consist of around 180 people, somewhere in there, 150 to 200. And the first ones, they were a part of the American Board of Commissioners for Foreign Missions, ABCFM, in the Hawaiian Islands.
that sounds
Now,
like a
what-
radio station.
Doesn't it? ABCFM.
Yeah.
The one
all the
place
hits
for
all the time.
sports. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
It could be hits, it could be sports, be talk
Totally,
radio.
yeah. We're going to get the
Damn.
lead out.
They play Zeppelin and the Beatles in the morning.
For your drive time commute.
Now, of course, there were, ministers of the gospel, physicians, teachers, and then, of course, there were farmers, but there was also printers and bookbinders. They were going to translate the Bible, of course, into the Hawaiian language. Now, the Hawaiian language wasn't written down at this point, so what these missionaries did is they used, Latin script with phonetic English pronunciation, and they wrote out their language, basically, right? So that's how their language works, right? On paper. On paper.
And they're cool with that.
Well, it's something.
It wasn't really up to that.
It's the one thing they got that was, I would say, is positive from the situation, because now they have a written language, and like super fast, like in the grand scheme of things, overnight they had an astonishingly high literacy rate, like the highest literacy rate in the world, somewhere like 90 to 95% of everybody in Hawaii could read. So that's
pretty
the one
impressive for
thing.
them not even having a written language before.
It is. They westernized incredibly rapidly, and it would lead to problems, later on down the line. Ideologically, there we go.
Yeah.
It would have,
when Chris cuts this together, it's just going to be like, it did create a lot of problems ideologically. It's going to be like Robot Voice.
Yeah.
Ideological.
Yeah.
Ideologically.
It's a hard word to say.
It is.
I can't even pronounce English sometimes, guys. Yeah. And I'm doing a podcast. Anyway. Some, of course, they were scholars, and they did master the Hawaiian language. And this is something that actually your wife, Chris, told me about, the way they sort of wrote this language.
Oh, interesting.
She probably told Chris about it, and Chris tuned it out because, wives, am I right?
Yeah. She's talking about shopping or something.
And what they would do, they opened up schools, of course, where they instilled, modesty in their clothing, so they gave them these, sort of early, Victorian, pre-Victorian clothes, things like that. And like, that's what they wore for a long time afterwards. They dressed kind of stylishly for the day, and because when they first got there, like the missionaries were horrified to learn that like the women were going around bare-chested. And they're like, oh my God, can't have that.
Acting like they don't like to see a tit.
Yeah. Well, they also didn't like the hula. Didn't like the hula one bit. It was too sexual.
That's the whole point.
I know. That's what they said. They were like, that's the whole... And
moving
like,
your hips.
No, that's
like
outlaw.
your Elvis.
Yeah.
It's outlaw. But one thing for the common people that they taught, which I think is fucking stupid and ironic, is actually they suppressed their actual language. They wanted people to speak English. They didn't teach it in schools, which effectively bans the language, right?
Yeah.
If it's not useful to know, then it's effectively banned, right?
So,
and they would discourage people from using it as well.
What you're saying is, if there's something that is banned in schools, you're effectively treating it like it doesn't exist and banning it outright.
Yeah. Absolutely, yeah. Everything from basically saying it's illegal, right? It was everything short of that. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's like being left-handed in old school. Like a long time ago, if you were left-handed, they would like tie your arm behind your back and stuff like that. Kind of like that. Not illegal, but they're gonna try to get it out of you. You know what I mean?
Do we know if Ron DeSantis listens to this podcast? Because I feel like he can learn a thing or two.
Oh yeah. No, he already knows what he's doing by leaving this story out of his textbooks.
Oh yeah,
it's a good call.
As well as a lot of their other traditions, they were also left out of what they taught and discouraged, and may as well have been banned. Yeah, and they were like I said, Christianized, quote unquote, civilized, westernized, very quickly.
And by that you mean wearing uncomfortable clothes that are way too hot, constantly getting their hands slapped away from their genitals, and not being able to move their hips when they dance.
Right. Yeah.
It's like fucking John Lithgow's running the entire island.
And eating bland food.
It's fucking weak sauce, man.
Yeah.
Get them out of here.
Yeah. But like as I was saying, like, the jobs there, we're going to kind of get into the jobs that the missionary class, I guess, ended up providing. They provided jobs basically to get rich, right? And they didn't want to pay their labor very much, if at all, right? So a lot of Native Hawaiians refused, not all of them, but a lot of them refused to cut sugarcane for reasons that will become clear later. So yeah, they joined whaling and trading vessels. This is sort of where Herman Melville kind of gets Queequeg from, you know, for
Moby Dick.
Moby Dick. Yeah, why was I blanking on that?
saw those sweet tats and was like,
yeah,
I'm
and
gonna
they
make up a
discouraged
guy
the
like that.
tattooing as well.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
lame.
Yeah.
No one's allowed
was-
to look cool.
Yeah, it was stuff
No.
that they consider, you know, heathen and against God, you know. Now, the way the government of the time broke down, it was a kingdom, right? And it was actually, they had matrilineal royal rights, right? So the title would also pass to the females of the family, right?
Oh.
Right.
So, not just the males, right? So anyone from any house, whoever's the closest, could be in line for the title, right?
You better believe Whitey didn't like that.
Yeah, I was wondering,
No.
like, what did the Christians think of that? They're like, women? It's way...
right.
I brought this lot in our abortion episode, but on Always Sunny, when they go to the bank, there's that woman, and they're like, we thought we'd be talking to a man. Can we talk to your boss? And she's also a woman. They go, well, now this is a strange bank.
Yeah, that's basically how they viewed Hawaii. You know what I mean?
Huh. You Hawaiians, this is wild.
And then, like, they would have regents for like a long time. There were, you know, because like the next in line was a young male that was too young to rule, and that happened multiple times. And yeah, women were very heavily involved in Hawaiian society, absolutely. And by the way, I've been saying Hawaii, but it's Hawai'i, with a sort of a soft V on it. I think is the proper pronunciation for.
Man.
So I might actually use them interchangeably.
Okay, that's your thing. You do that. I'm going to call it Hawaii because I got
Okay.
it from the punch. Little guy with the antlers coming out. You know, I don't know why he has antlers. Sometimes he's surfing.
Yeah, why did he have it?
Yeah, is he
That's
a
probably
moose?
like a thing.
There's no moose.
Yeah.
No, he was a dude. He was a little
but he had
guy
the
with
antlers.
antlers.
He was a little dude with moose antlers, and he comes in and
I'm
he
sure
punches you right in the face. But it's like
It was probably
juice.
very... yeah, he was like, would you like a Hawaiian punch? And then he'd knock your teeth out.
I bet
Knock
it
your
has something
fucking
to.
teeth out. Be like, stop looking at my wife.
Stop looking at my antlers, man.
Yeah.
Get a real chip on his shoulder about it.
It's like, sorry, it's mating season. I
He's
get
like-
really worked up.
We've been drinking this Hawaiian punch through a straw.
Straw going right in your butt because there's not going to be anything in your face left. He's got a real chip on his shoulder ever since the Kool-Aid guy showed up and fucking stole his thunder. Sorry.
You know what? I don't think they're antlers. Actually,
I don't think they are.
I googled a picture of him. I don't think they are.
He's got
it's a
things on
grass
his
hat.
head. I think it's part of like
grass
a...
hat.
It's probably like a specific Hawaiian traditional thing that they just totally capitalize on. And now we're making
it's a
fun
grass hat, and it's a white guy wearing it. And yeah,
I see it now.
oh, that's odd. Yeah,
No.
Oh, it's
older
just a
it-
hat.
See, this
Yeah,
is
just
what
a-
the HD revolution is ruining for all of us because
I 100% remembered him having antlers, but I think it was just
Yeah.
a shitty drawing.
yeah, I think
No,
it
it's a
always
grass
looked like
hat.
he had yeah.
Because, like,
So
It's-
what is he actually
in
representing?
this one... Oh, shit.
A smug white guy on vacation in Oahu.
With a chip on his
Yeah,
shoulder, punch people in
probably.
the face.
Yeah,
Like, that was a thing, though. He would punch people. He'd be like, Hawaiian
sick of
punch.
people
And
calling
he'd
him Howley.
like,
He's like, I own property here. I pay taxes. I'm sick
I have
of
a
this
condo.
shit. Yeah.
Yeah. Now, the royals after Kamehameha the Great, who died in 1819. Now, these were called, the kings were called the Ali'i Nui, okay, which meant supreme leader. Like, there were the other Ali'i, which are like the nobles, right? It's like the noble class, the Ali'i, right? There's also the Kuhina Nui, which is basically the regent, right? And a kuhina could be a woman or a man, right? As you would with any sort of king or monarch, right? Now, Kamehameha II, he didn't reign for very long. He actually tried to go to England to get recognized as a sovereign nation, and like people told him not to go because it was really far, and he would have been the first like monarch of their land to ever go there, and he died on the way of measles.
Yeah. For some reason, I thought you were going to say that he shouldn't go there because it's really foggy.
No. Andy's going to get there and be like, I'm the first and ever king of Hawaii to come to England. They're going to be like, by Jove, let's put him in the human zoo. And, with all the other oddities and weirdos. And it's like, by oddities and weirdos, we mean brown people. And,
right.
And he goes.
Yeah. Like what they did with Otabanga.
Yep.
Now, a lot of these Hawaiian monarchs really deserve their own episodes. They're all extremely fascinating. I'm going to run through each one, right? I'm only laying the groundwork for what is going to come next, right? So I'm gonna sprint through these because it's just kind of what you need to know before we get into it, so you understand what the fuck is going on in this.
Right.
So the crown passes to his brother, and Kamehameha III, he has a really long reign, and with all, he had a missionary upbringing, right? So he really westernizes Hawaii a lot. He installs a new constitution, which gave more rights. It had a Bill of Rights and things like that for all of the people there. There's a legislature. There is a new Supreme Court. All of these things, right? This all happens really fast. And he has all of these sort of haole advisors around him, right? And we'll talk about how they kind of get there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Why they're there talking to him about how to run his country.
They're all played by Brad Dourif.
Yeah, right.
like Worm Tongue.
It's Brad Dourif, and he's playing different characters, and like it's like one Brad Dourif in a fat suit, one is like a lady Brad Dourif, and
one is Brad Dourif with lightning powers.
Yeah,
right.
I'm thinking of Gremlins.
Yeah.
Different Brad Dourifs.
One's the Brad Dourif with like tomatoes coming off his face.
You fed Brad Dourif after midnight.
Yeah, there's a bunch of them.
There's a shit ton of them. They're all
advising the king of Hawaii.
Yeah.
That got weird.
Now all this about the Constitution, and these Bill of Rights, it sounded good, and it was all well-meaning, it really was, and it wasn't perfect, but it did. One thing it did give was the native Hawaiian people sort of like a national pride and identity to sort of be behind something like a system of government that wasn't just the king. It was something bigger, something more, right? This is something Lilio Kalani writes a lot about, is about this constitution that they lived with for a really long time, and that they would fix and whatnot during this time. But there was a couple of pitfalls about this constitution. There was less severe punishments for nobles, which sounds great.
If you're a noble.
Yeah, well, no longer would they exile you with a little bit of food and just push you off into a raft. They found out that people could easily swim away from their jails and things like this, and it wasn't really working. And the fact that
this raft thing is not working.
Yeah, the fact that
you stay on that raft and you die.
The fact that they had these missionary, sort of influences. They made adultery illegal. And again, in their culture, there was a sense. There was a sense of it's weird to put, but back then, for the time, there wasn't really a problem with. I don't really want to call it polyamory, but sort of there really wasn't a huge issue with that. You know what I mean? They didn't really look down on people for that, but this made it illegal. And all the elite, they converted to Christianity, but most of the common native Hawaiians did not. So what this ended up doing was punishing on a larger scale native Hawaiians more severely and more so, I guess, than anyone else on the island, right?
It's like, it's like, I actually think of a couple things where it's like Christians in the United States making laws based off of their religion, forcing them on everyone else.
Yeah.
But also specific laws the United States has done to like disproportionately punish people of color.
Right.
You know,
yeah.
most drug laws are designed that way.
Well, that's what this is. I mean, this is a direct attack on something that they feel is against their religion. But if you don't accept their religion, then this is illegal. So it disproportionately affects you, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Right. Yeah. So now there was also some good intentioned land reform policies, right? Where all the land they're like, okay, normal people can own land now, common people can own land, you know. And the thing is land ownership was a new idea to them, you know. Like this is something that comes up again and again with indigenous populations. Like the Hawaiians don't even have a word for land ownership, or they don't understand the concept. You know what I mean? So to have, you know, because they have sort of a quasi-feudal system where like they kind of like make you a steward of this piece of land. You know what I mean? And then you sort of pay the elite above you, and he, you know, it's quasi-feudal. You know what I mean? So to have somebody be like, you can own land now is like, what? Yeah, for them. You know, what does that mean?
It's like owning sky.
Yeah,
they're like,
right.
Well, I mean, if the corporations have their way, they're going to be like, you need to pay an extra $15 a month tax for the sky that's above your head. We make sure that it stays free of something, and you got to pay it now.
Well, I think that might be a real thing for some people. I think that, I think skyscrapers have to pay some sort of crazy like air rights. You know, I think that is a thing in like the big money world that we'll never have to deal with.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Until I build my tower for fun. Say this is the Tyler Tower. Say that 10 times fast, and every floor. It's got different pizzas, and they get more interesting the further you go to the top.
They want to keep me from building my tower so tall that I can meet God. He'll make us talk all funny like.
Yeah, there you go.
It's gonna be deep dish at the top.
Yeah,
because that's a lot of people would say New York, but I think God's true slice is the one that is just a casserole with cheese and meat and sauce inside.
Chicago.
Yeah. There's gonna be.
Well,
I'm gonna get stabbed. I'm gonna get stabbed for saying
it is pretty windy at the top of a skyscraper.
Yeah.
Not unlike the Windy City.
And also where
conditions are windy.
You want a pie that's not gonna blow away in the wind. How many times?
That's why they layered it down with more sauce, so it didn't just, none of that thin crust New York stuff flying away.
Yeah, that's the reason. In Chicago, they were like, I'm sick of my pizza flying away. Stack it up. Layer it on. Pretty much make it a lasagna.
Yeah. It's good. I like all pizzas.
I've never had really Chicago style.
What this actually did, though, this land reform, it became a weapon that could be used against the native Hawaiians to strip them of their lands. You know, there would be, you know, some islands, you know, there. I think one of them, I can't remember which one. One of them, 92% of the island was owned by a sugar company. You know what I mean? 92% of the island. You know, it's crazy.
Sugar barons.
But I'll explain how that works here in a bit. So Kamehameha III, he dies suddenly of a stroke, and they don't see it coming. You know, and his nephew, Alexander Liho becomes Kamehameha IV, right? Alexander Liho, he's super interesting. Early, he's the heir apparent, right? So there's this conflict with France, and it could be its own episode, but it's French Catholics versus the English and American Protestants, basically, is what you need to know, right? Anyway, there's this thing. They send Alexander and his little brother Lot across the United States to Britain, basically, or to France and then Britain. Anyway, they go to France to basically do peace talks and maybe get recognized as a sovereign country.
Right.
They're going to end up in the human zoo.
Well, the French diplomatic talks break down. It doesn't work. They go to England. They're actually received really well there. I think it was here that Queen Victoria acknowledges them as a sovereign nation. And meanwhile, something else is happening in Hawaii, and it's called the Paulette Affair, because this English naval captain, Lord George Paulette, he believed that the Hawaii belonged to England, and so he by force he occupied it and waited word back from Queen Victoria.
I want to bring up real quick that I know what happened with Tyler in his mind there was you said Paulette and he's like, oh, a lady, and then you're like, not a lady, and he's like, oh.
George could be a lady's name.
Georgina, Georgia.
I was expecting something a lot steamier.
Yeah,
France.
You're over there straightening your tie.
I'm just like, here we, I was straightening my tie, trying to lick my palms and slick down my hair.
You're like, oh, lady, all right.
And looks like I'm going home alone again.
Yeah, petite feet.
Yeah.
Now, the Paulette Affair, it was ended by two things. Basically, receiving word from Queen Victoria that she actually ruled against Lord George Paulette, and he was like, oh, shit, making me look like an asshole over here. So he left kind of with his tail between his legs. But there was another reason, because there were these they were getting cozy with the United States around this time. And in order to defend Hawaiian sovereignty, United States gunboats also appeared in Hawaii to defend Hawaiian independence, which is so ironic that of what would happen next. That it's like you guys would go to bat and risk war, to and then just turn right around,
like, They're like, don't worry, we'll protect you, from being, we'll allow you to continue to be independent from the British so that we can have you.
Yeah.
Basically, yeah.
I need that sugar.
Leave it up to the U.S. to take something as pure as a boat and put a gun on it. Am I right, guys?
That wasn't just the U.S.
The British want that sugar for their tea.
And the Americans want that sugar for their bread and for their peanut butter and for their shoelaces and I don't know, inside of their basketballs. Like, we put sugar in fucking everything.
Yeah. It's true.
I'm pretty sure the frames of my glasses are made out of sugar. And if they weren't,
it's either that or corn.
Then why are they so delicious?
Yeah, everything's delicious here. Yeah, it's a real candy land here.
Yeah.
On his way back, him and his brother Alexander and Lot, they went back through and they actually met Zachary Taylor and Millard Fillmore, two of our least known presidents. When Millard Fillmore was vice president,
they didn't know it at the time.
Yeah. They're like, oh, I got to meet a president. You're like,
was it Lincoln?
No.
Was it during World War II? No.
Yeah. I don't know who. Was it Theodore Roosevelt? No.
It was,
no one's going to give a fuck until somebody's getting their dick sucked in the Oval Office. Just heads up. And then you go, by the way, I'm from the future, and you threw down a smoke bomb. Just leave them wondering.
Yeah. Now, it is believed that Alexander's trip, and it's not, hard. It's not hard to understand why, but it's believed that it was through this trip through America that Alexander formed this anti-American viewpoint. Because while they were there, I mean, this is pre-Civil War. Yeah, they dealt with a lot of racist shit. The conductor on the train that they were on, threw a fit and told them to get off or to get into the colored car.
Yeah.
And, he writes about it and he's like, petulant fool.
He's like royalty.
He is, yeah. And, there was a butler that wouldn't wait on black people. I think he even said, I don't wait on blacks. And
That's racist.
He gave him like a bib, you know what I mean? Because he was like, considering them animals, I think, or something like that. And Alexander, I think he took it as a joke. He didn't really understand what the bib was, so he was just like, what I mean? He kind of laughed that one off, like, you're a fucking idiot, dude. Like, I don't know what you were trying to do with that one,
He's like, there must be a mistake because we're either having lobster for dinner, you think I brought a small child with me, or you would like to die. This country's skating on thin ice. I already got diabetes just for being here for like a week. So,
well, and he like wrote about it later, like recounting this trip, and he's like, America says a lot about, oh, I'm free and all this shit, but boy, oh boy, do they treat people that look like me like shit. Like he just says it, back then. He doesn't give a fuck.
You said this is pre-Civil War too.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, they had slaves.
Yeah, and I'll come back to that kind of stuff. I'm gonna circle back around to that as well here in a second. Right after this whole affair and whatnot, that Kamehameha III dies. Kamehameha IV, Alexander becomes king, and he wants to kind of get back to Hawaiian traditions. He reinstates a lot of things that sort of have been lost. His queen, Queen Emma was her name. They had a son which was going to be next in line, but the son tragically died at a young age. Alexander slipped into a depression. He was less interested in governing after that. Not hard to understand why not. You know what I mean? Not hard.
Do we know how the son died?
Yeah, brain fever is what they called it. It's meningitis, I believe.
Okay,
is what it is. I believe. I don't know. I'm going from memory here on that one. They called it brain fever, though.
See, I don't know anything about that, so I'm just gonna reinsert autoerotic asphyxiation in there and just
it was
move
a child.
Oh. Well, it's probably why he was so bad at it that he accidentally killed himself.
Oh my god. Jesus Christ.
All right, fine. Let's go with quote unquote brain fever while we're making up diseases.
He started drinking a lot. One time he got drunk and shot his best friend because there was a rumor going around that he was sleeping with his wife.
Just a rumor.
He felt really bad about it afterwards, and because it wasn't true, and he let him use his house in Waikiki for the rest of his life.
He didn't kill him. He just...
Well, he died 2 years later. And he felt so bad about it. He almost like abdicated. He was like, "All right, well, fuck it, I'm done. I suck," And people were like, "No, you don't
suck." He's like, "I shot my best friend."
Yeah, but he didn't die of bullet fever. He died of a broken heart because he was so sad that his best friend shot him.
Bullet fever.
In the days of the Civil War, they really wanted Hawaiian sugar, right? Because all the sugar from that they had in America was from the South. At least a lot of it was from the South. Now I'm going to really talk about sugar here in a second, so I'm going to really get into that.
Can't wait for that.
But Kamehameha IV, he actually refused to sign a reciprocity agreement with Lincoln, which would basically just cut out the tariffs involved in moving this sugar and American goods, back and forth. He refused and declared himself and Hawaii neutral during the Civil War because he wanted to trade with other powers, not just America. And he was seeing that they were really dependent on American goods and things like that. And he wanted to trade with France and Spain and England and really be on the world stage like everyone else. and Japan, and things like that. So
I'd like to
But
think
he
it was
didn't really-
America's idea to open up the relationship. And now that Hawaii's just having such a good time, meeting all these new people, America's feeling pretty butthurt about it.
right, exactly. And God damn it, so you can kind of see those cracks, where they're like, God damn it, that's our sugar, and you'll understand why here in a second. Now, this is something I found interesting. In 1856, Kamehameha IV decreed that December 25th would be celebrated as the kingdom's national day of Thanksgiving. Right? Almost like a July 4th, like a national day.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Is this some kind of fuck you?
No. The missionaries were actually against it because it was they objected they objected to celebrating Christmas on the grounds that it was a pagan celebration, which it is.
It is, yes.
So they didn't want to celebrate anything on December 25th.
Okay, so wait. Oh, okay. So they were trying to have their Thanksgiving be on Christian Christmas, but the missionaries were like, no holidays on that day because if we don't get to have fun, ain't nobody get to have fun.
Right, exactly. We're going to celebrate our dry, boring Christmas, and that's what it's going to be. We're going to celebrate the birth of Christ in a different way. Anyway,
we're all gonna go to church, and then some guy up on the pulpit's going to chastise us for only ever showing up on Christmas, even though the only thing we ever do is go to church. So he knows that that's not true, but here we are.
Well, 6 years later, he actually formally proclaimed Christmas as a national holiday of the Kingdom of Hawaii.
Nice.
Later, you know what I mean? So, things changed, you know what I mean?
They wanted those presents.
Yeah, it's stupid the way the missionaries, this is sort of the world that they're coming from, is this really, really conservative, type thing. All of these people, post 1850s and 60s, they grew up with these missionaries, right? These are like the elite of Hawaii at this point, just keep that in mind. They have that missionary upbringing.
It's a bunch of fucking squares, man.
Kamehameha IV died of an asthma attack. Again, very suddenly, not really leaving an heir, right? His son was supposed to be his heir, and then he died. And he died in 1863. So his brother, Lot, became Kamehameha V, right?
Oh.
And he also revived more Hawaiian traditions. He went on that trip and saw the racism as well. He also brought back some Hawaiian medicine, the idea of the kahuna, the sort of priest class in old Hawaiian traditions. Brought back some of these things.
Was he named Lot from the Bible?
Yes, he was named that. Yeah.
I was gonna say, he's like, I'm in charge now, and most of my family's salt, and my brother died of asthma fever, and but I'm bringing back Big Kahuna, so guys who are the boss in the mid 1960s have something to call themselves.
Yeah.
I feel like it's always a guy in the mid late 50s to mid 60s. He's like, I'm the boss around here. I'm the Big Kahuna,
Yeah.
Well, and he's wearing
absolutely.
a shirt. He's like a big square man, and he's wearing a shirt. He has a handlebar mustache that says Big Kahuna on it.
Yeah, he fought in Korea.
Yeah. It's a white guy, for sure.
Totally.
Absolutely.
Lot didn't rule for very long. He actually would die in 1872. Okay, that not very long at all. It was actually right before his birthday. They were setting up celebrations for his birthday.
Oh, birthday fever.
Yeah, he even said, "The good Lord cannot take me today. Today is my birthday." And he died. Yeah,
he died on his birthday.
Yeah, and they even he was bedridden. But they put up all this death, stuff, and it turns out he wasn't actually dead. But yeah, he did die on his birthday. It was right on the day, December 11th.
Birthday,
that he
death
died.
day. That's badass. When you said that they started putting up death stuff, I thought you were gonna say they started putting up like decorations around his deathbed.
Yeah,
so they
That's
could
kind
have
of
the
what I
party.
mean.
Yeah.
That's kind of what
They
like
put up sides and stuff.
Like they were taking down the birthday stuff and putting up like like multicolored birthday flags, and they're putting up
Take
like
down the
black
birthday
ones.
stuff. Put up the
Put up
death
the
stuff.
Put up the funeral stuff. Yeah, that's
It's like in a
much,
different Tupperware tub.
Yeah, that's pretty much what it was.
Get it out of the attic.
They're like, come on, show him his gift. Show him what you got him. It's like, I really don't feel comfortable. Show him the gift. It's tickets to Springsteen. It's 2 weeks out. He's like the big kahuna because he's the boss, and I thought you really like it. And
he's the big kahuna of Jersey.
Yeah. But like I said, 2 weeks out. So So yeah, I had to get birthday fever.
Yep.
Birthday fever.
Just have to take someone else.
He also died without an heir, sort of, but he has this kind of like last quote to say about that. His cousin Lunaliho was the only person that was from the Kamehameha dynasty that was alive that could take it. You know what I mean? So he has this quote: "The throne belongs to Lunalilo. I will not appoint him, because I consider him unworthy of the position. The Constitution, in case I make no nomination, provides for the election of the next king. Let it be so." And then he died. Yeah, so William Charles Lunalilo, he wasn't Kamehameha, the last of the great Kamehamehas died with Lot. So Lunalilo, they had this sort of general election in the legislature, right? And they all knew that he was sort of named, he was the next in line, and to not ruffle any feathers, they went with him. Now, Lunalilo...
But then he was afterwards replaced by the Gallic Gun dynasty.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
That's Dragon Ball.
Yeah.
This is Vegeta's thing.
I figured. He was also known as Whiskey Bill.
Oh.
Because
he liked whiskey.
He liked whiskey. He liked to drink. His health was not great. He was an alcoholic. He had tuberculosis.
The consumption.
Yes, he did. And
I have to say it every time now.
As he was dying, he only ruled for like a year. As he was dying, he wanted to leave succession to a democratic vote in the legislature as well. And he died in 1874. His reign was marred by economic depression for reasons that will soon become clear. Now, the throne would then be passed, and we're going to talk really about this in the next episode, to the House of Kalakawa. They were basically related to Kalaniʻopuʻu, which was the ali'i nui of Hawaii when Captain James Cook arrived, right?
Yes.
So the brother, his father, that ali'i nui's father had another child, right? So that king's brother had another line, right? And that was the House of Kalakawa, right?
Kalakawa.
So they took over, right?
So
and I keep wanting to say Caracalla, the Roman emperor, but no, it's Kalakawa.
Kalakawa?
Kalakawa.
Was that also some sort of key blast move, or was that something else?
Another Dragon Ball reference.
Come on, Kamehameha. What do you want from me? I'm a simple man.
If it was good enough for Toriyama, it's good enough for me and Chris.
That's right.
One.
You know what I'm excited for is when the Destructo Disc dynasty takes over.
That's the United States.
The Destructo Disc is the United States. Yeah, that's President McKinley.
Yeah. He has a hot blonde robot for a wife.
No, not a lot of Native Hawaiians really liked this pick. Kalakawa was seen as somebody that could be more moderate, somebody more friendly to the United States, somebody that the Haole could maybe control. And a lot of people, they thought that the closest in line was actually the Dowager Queen Emma, right? Alexander's wife. She was still alive.
She's still around.
Right? And when she didn't get it, people rioted. And Like, a lot of people were hurt. One guy died. So it was sort of for a lot of reasons, it was crazy to go this route. Now, around this time, basically, in 1843, we all have to understand, just going forward, that Europe, the United States, Canada, and then later France, and all the European powers all recognized Hawaii as a sovereign nation. They finally had that. They had all of that, right? Although they were still sort of called the Sandwich Islands to a lot of people, because that's what they were first named, after the Earl of Sandwich by Captain Cook. Right?
Yeah.
So a lot of people still called it the Sandwich Islands.
I wonder what was on that sandwich.
Yeah.
You know, you go to that island, maybe some Spam or some kind of pork. It's like a shredded pork.
Yeah. Oh, that sounds good. Spam
Definitely.
is delicious. I don't care.
Fried Spam with like a coconut based coleslaw is like.
I put Spam in macaroni and cheese recently.
Yeah, that sounds good.
I think we talked about that in the Patreon show, actually.
I think we did.
If you want to know all about that,
for as little as $5 a month, you can hop onto our Patreon and listen to me and Chris talk about what we put in macaroni and cheese, and also history stuff.
Pennies a day.
Yeah.
For pennies a day.
For the price of one box of Kraft macaroni and cheese, you could learn about what we're gonna do with that box of macaroni and cheese.
Yeah.
Now, let's talk about these sugar barons.
I've been waiting to talk about these sugar barons all day.
The power that is controlling pretty much, non-political aspects of Hawaii at this time.
I like to imagine that they are like old Texans,
Oh, I imagine a room full of guys that look like Marlon Brando in his final days.
Oh yeah.
Fanning themselves and being like, "What will we do with this sugar, boys?"
They got that old that voice Charlie Day does when he's playing a rich Texan.
Yeah.
It sounds Texan. Like Foghorn Leghorn, frankly.
Yeah. Well, look, just real quick for me, if you will, look up a picture of Sanford Dole.
Oh.
Is he the pineapple guy?
He's not the pineapple guy. His nephew, I believe, is the pineapple guy.
Sanford B. Dole? Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, yeah. This guy.
This man.
This is an oil baron. A sugar baron?
This is one of the main people we're going to be talking about. But
is his beard made of cotton candy?
They look like this. This is what the guys look like.
This guy fans himself, and he wears pants that go up to his nipples.
Yeah. Now, a lot of these people that would become sugar barons, they were descended from the first missionary families. Sometimes they were opportunistic capitalists from the United States, Great Britain, or other countries by way of the United States.
Opportunistic capitalists from the United States?
Yeah, right. Hard to believe, I know.
Times have changed, haven't they?
Yeah. Now that we live in this socialist paradise.
Yeah.
Socialist secular paradise that we call the United States.
Yeah. Now, sugar cane, which was actually introduced to Hawaii in the 600s AD by Hawaiians themselves, was a cash crop for the rest of the world, and the rich Haole saw it growing well there and remembered all about Cuba and Puerto Rico. And
do you need a lot of humidity to grow sugar?
Yeah, you do.
I would think so. Doesn't grow out here, not in Seattle.
Right.
Oh, I wish it did. I'd have my own sugar cane.
I'd be my own sugar
plantation.
Baron.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I say, boy, hand me that sugar.
How the process works back then. I don't know. You might change your mind. It's a lot of work.
Oh, I have a son.
Yeah. Well, it's not a lot of work if you own human beings and force them to do that work.
And I do.
Right. Yeah.
And I will.
Yeah, you have a son. Same thing.
The only problem is they just had to get at that land, right? They just had to be able to own it, right?
Give me that land.
Yeah. So that's why when Kamehameha III is coming up with this new constitution and all this stuff he wants to westernize, he asks these people from the United States, what he needs to do. And of course, the first legislatures and stuff, they're filled with powerful haole, these sort of rich missionary families,
Mhm.
right?
They're probably so excited to give him advice too.
Yeah, and they're his cabinets, right? And this would be a reoccurring problem. His cabinets were full of these people too. So when this land reform went into effect, basically, any native Hawaiian could petition the government for their land. Then they could, get it back, right? And there was a period of time that they had to do it in, right? And it was difficult to do, hard to pull off. And a lot of people couldn't afford to even at a discounted rate to buy it back. So what it would do is it would end up in the crown's hands. And at that point, if the crown needs money, there will be buyers, right?
Mhm.
And now, if these people are allowed to own land here because they're able to buy it, now they want political representation as well, right?
Of course they do.
Right, exactly. So this is just sort of the small, chipping away at Hawaiian sovereignty that sort of begins here. And it's, in a lot of ways, it's built all around sugar, all around sugar. Now, these sugar barons had names like Samuel Northrop Castle, Amos Starr Cook of Castle and Cook Sugar, Theo H. Davies, Heinrich Hackfeld, Klaus Spreckles.
Oh, that one.
Yep.
He's pretty interesting too.
I thought anus was going to be the funny one, but Spreckles
Anus.
ended it.
I'm laughing at the German
Amos.
sounding
It's
one.
Amos. Klaus
Close
Spreckles
enough.
was pretty interesting too. He's almost an episode all his own because he's a guy with zero ideology. He doesn't care about anything except for making money.
That sounds
Seriously,
about right.
people called him like they're like, dude, you care about one thing only, and that's you.
He's like, correct. Was he German?
Oh yeah.
I mean, like from German? Or
German
like
born, and then he, I believe German born. Then he came to the United States. He kind of worked all around. He was disillusioned during the gold rush. Anyway, he's sort of a story for a different day as well. There was also William H. Purvis.
Fucking
Purvis?
pervert.
Get it? Yeah.
Purvis. I'm
John
sorry.
Mott Smith. I wonder. I actually didn't look this up, but is Mott's, those like candies, those jellies, does that have
no.
anything to do with John Mott Smith? I
don't know.
wonder.
Maybe he's the applesauce guy.
Well, let us know.
It's a better name for candy than Purvis.
John
Yeah.
Mott Smith. It's those like little gummy, they're kind of like your mom put them in your lunch for you when
My
you
mom
went to
didn't.
grade school. Not
Maybe
your mom
did.
My mom did. There was also Samuel Parker and George B. Truso.
Mm.
These were like the big sugar barons of Hawaii.
Yeah.
Now, as I was saying earlier, a lot of Hawaiians didn't want to work in the sugarcane fields. A lot of them said, we're like, no, this is, you're treating us like slaves, and this is my home.
Yeah.
I'm not going to be a slave
This
in my own
sucks. I don't want to.
home. Some of the more poorer populations, though, they did work in the cane fields. There were Hawaiians that did.
You make them desperate enough that they don't really have
yeah.
a choice.
Well, and so what they did is that they actually outsourced their workforce. So they went and got people from other countries and signed them to ironclad contracts and brought them to Hawaii as a workforce.
God,
Mm-hmm.
who would have thought that manifest destiny can go over water?
Yeah. Well, they were making a strong case for that back in the day. They were like, manifest destiny could also mean Hawaii, guys.
Yeah.
And
Just
it's
keep
like,
going.
how is it Hawaii? Anyway, but
It's made up in the first fucking place, so
yeah,
you can just say whatever you want.
You could say anything at that point. So where they would get this workforce would be from China, from Japan. There'd be Filipino workers, Puerto Rico, Korea. There would be a lot of Portuguese as well. And they would actually bring in African American slaves from the mainland as well. And they would do this because they thought and this is really fucked up, but they thought that these horrific working conditions that they worked in, that, these Chinese and Japanese and Filipino, they're dying all the time.
Yeah.
They're like, they can survive this. There's something, they just can survive this work, and it's like, Jesus.
It's so dark.
It's so dark. Yeah, it's uncomfortable truths about the just how horrific this kind of shit is.
We can't make Asians slaves. They die too quickly.
Right.
Under the brutal conditions we forced them to work under.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they paid them, but it wasn't much, right?
Yeah.
They
That's
even
what we
brought
call
a small
slave
group,
wages.
a small group of Ukrainians in,
Mm.
which is interesting. A lot of them wanted to leave immediately.
You're like,
It
this
was
sucks.
Backbreaking work under horrific hours for little
You promised
to no
me a
pay.
tropical paradise.
Yeah, this was their paradise. Yeah.
Do you think that like some of them were like, peeing in like soda bottles because they weren't allowed to take breaks?
Mm-hmm.
Like
Yes.
the Amazon worker of today.
I'm
mean-
not drawing a comparison or
Yeah.
Well, you're already working outside. You might as well just...
Yeah. I would say that's the
Right on
modern
them
day
crops.
equivalent. They revolted multiple times and almost immediately. And these first sugarcane workers were leaders, Hawaii's first labor movements that still ripples into today. Hawaii needed unions for sugar and stuff, and the fight for labor laws and change to this sort of system all started basically in the beginning. So that's a whole other story too, is how that went, labor and these things went in Hawaii.
In short,
Fascinating
not
stuff.
well.
It had its ups and downs.
Mm.
Actually, when you said that reminded me. When I did look up Mott Smith, one of the things that he's known for is the Mott Smith building and Mott Smith Drive in Makiki, and it's a 3-story building that houses the second electric elevator in Hawaii. So that also had its ups and downs.
Nice.
Actually,
That's good.
Honolulu and Hawaii was actually very modern. They were modernized very, very quickly. Like the palace in Hawaii actually had electricity before the White House.
Oh, no way.
Yeah, White House still had gaslight for a long time. But yeah, they had a lot of modern conveniences like right away, like real fast. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's just the White House for you, always gaslighting us.
Now these
Solid.
sugar barons gobbled up most of the arable land, as I said earlier, and they could see it happening. You know what I mean? And they're like, shit, But what really it did, because of the planting practices and the rush to get sugarcane crop and more of it, it decimated subsistence farming in all of these communities, these surrounding communities. So it made them dependent on working cane fields. Now, if you were subsistence farmers, now you had to work for money at a cane field, which was terrible because you had a machete or a cane knife and you swing it in front of you, and it's out in the hot sun, you're working all day, these are long hours, and you're trying not to cut your own leg off or the guy in front of you's leg off.
That had to have happened.
And hope somebody doesn't cut your leg off. And I'm sure it happens all the time. Yeah. And they also rerouted rivers and waterways. Try saying that 10 times fast. And they drained lakes and entire water tables. Water tables were drained to irrigate these new cane fields, sugarcane fields.
This whole thing's
this
a
is-
microcosm for like capitalism. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
Oh yeah, it ruins the environment. This is irreparable damage. It is forever changed now.
all the people who essentially were able to work for themselves and make their own destiny, they're like, now you got to do the same thing, but you do it for us, and we give you a tiny piece and take a big piece for ourselves.
Well,
Oh yeah, it reminds
Yeah.
me a lot of the days before the Mexican Revolution.
Yes, exactly. Right. Now, they would clear cut forests, ancient forests, clear cut them, and then realize that it's useless to plant sugarcane on and just leave it. And it would forever changing the biodiversity of this area, this biome of this area. Crazy shit. Now, like I said earlier, during the days of 49, that's when the Hawaiian sugar market boomed, and it made these sugar barons very rich. The thing is because it wasn't a part of the United States, they had to pay a tariff on the sugar, right, that they sent back and forth, because the South, right, they didn't like the fact that there was all of this sugar coming in, so they wanted to increase tariffs, right? They didn't want a reciprocity treaty with the United States.
So Southern sugar would always be cheaper for the consumer.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, that's the idea, right? Yeah. So here's what happened, right? So eventually there was a reciprocity treaty with the reciprocity treaty with the United States, right? Duty-free sugar and American products, right? But this really pissed off the South, right? It undercut, the value of their sugar, right? And it flooded the market, right? So basically, there was a McKinley Trade Act before he was president that what it did was it made all sugar duty-free from everywhere. So this reciprocity treaty that also leased land to the United States for their Navy in a little place called Pearl Harbor.
Yes.
It basically made it worthless and one-sided. You get to park your military here, and now there's nothing in it for me anymore. You know what I mean? If my sugar's now worth the same as the sugar in Louisiana, what the hell? I'm not making that much money anymore. The best way to make more money on this is actually be a part of the United States. I don't have to worry about any of this.
Oh, God.
You know what I mean? That's the best way to make money. Because then we got a constant flow of this shit. And then we can start shipping across, we can start going global with this stuff. You know what I mean? So that's the dollar signs they're seeing, right? Right? All we have to do is be a part of the United States, right? And that's how we get around this. The thing is sometimes sugar would tank. Their economy would tank whenever it was worthless, right? So during that time, it was worthless, And McKinley and the Republican Party of the Gilded Age, they were doing this to make them a state. If it's the one thing I do agree with the Democratic Party of the Gilded Age, is that they were against imperialism and against doing this. Like I talk a lot of shit about Grover Cleveland, but he was against Hawaiian annexation from the get-go. And that's something I can agree with him on. So there you go.
Jerry, I was going to talk to you about that because I feel like nary a conversation goes by that you don't fucking just cut in hard on whatever the topic is, turn it into how much you fucking hate Grover Cleveland, and just go to town on the guy. And
no. I think they call it Good Grover or something like that. I think that's what they called him. Yeah, he also he was there unconsecutively as well. The only president to ever do that. Yeah, he was always against it. And Benjamin Harrison, the president in between his two terms, he was trying to push for it. Right. We'll talk a little bit more about this in the next episode as well, because we're really going to follow Liliuokalani sort of through her life and trajectory, because I really do want to give you guys a real good understanding of her. The last queen of Hawaii. But back to this, there was also another document that was going to be used for their benefit, right? And this is something Liliuokalani talks a lot about. The fact that they can go, I'm Hawaiian, as a haole. When it suits them, they can say, I'm Hawaiian. And then in other times, they go, well, I'm American. Whenever it suits them, they can do that. You know what I mean?
They're like Steven Seagal.
Yeah, right. I'm Japanese and Italian and American. Yeah, it's
and sometimes Russian and Mongolian.
And and Japanese. Yeah, and it's like, what?
He's a citizen of the world.
Yeah. So this other document called the Monroe Doctrine. President James Monroe. It was sort of what it was supposed to do it was supposed to say that the United States of America stood in solidarity with the rest of the Americas in their independence movements. Okay, it was supposed to be a good thing, right? Like, think Simon Bolivar, right? This is supposed to be like in solidarity with Bolivar, kind of a deal, right?
Isn't the Monroe Doctrine that's what led to the Back to Africa movement that created Liberia, the worst place on Earth?
Yes, and there's reasons for that. That's a story for a different day. It sort of is. President Monroe definitely presided over that. Story for a different day. But basically, they were trying to say that the Americas were outside of the European sphere of influence. You know what I'm saying? And you couldn't do that. And they were like, if you're going to touch them, we are going to fight with them. You know what I mean? We will fight you, you know? And basically, what this was also used as, and you know, it was used to basically justify military action against said European powers in cases of American business interests as well as sovereignty, which in this case, those two things run counter, right? So that basically what that is saying is that without any qualms, the United States can kick out people like Britain and France and Spain and keep them away from Hawaii. And as long as there's American business interest there, they can claim it, sort of, as their own, right? That's the justification. That's the reasoning, behind this. And it's
like they kind of like replaced the flag with a little brick building with a smokestack coming out. They're like, see, we planted that there, so it's ours. Just saying.
Yeah, exactly. And, you know, there were, you know, Anglophiles among them that wanted to be more friendly with the British, you know, and things like this, divisions between them. But one thing was for sure, and that's because of these tariff policies and this push and pull in the United States, the greed for this sugar, basically, and its strategic location in the world became basically too much for the United States to bear. And it wasn't just the United States. You know, Germany was involved in the Pacific as well. But these sugar barons on the island would end up rising up and deposing the monarchy to basically hand over Hawaii to the United States on a silver platter, basically. Yeah. And that was the plan. Now, a lot would happen to get, and the crazy political divide during the time. You know, you had Cleveland, Harrison, Cleveland, and then McKinley. And these are some deeply divided times. Economic strife is at an all-time high. There's an argument going on that's dividing the Democratic Party about whether or not we should go to a gold or silver standard. That's a thing at this point. But where I'm going to basically leave you is the rise of House
Atreides?
I know, this whole thing is very Dune, by the way.
The rise of House Kalakawa. And because his sister, David Kalakawa's sister, was Liliuokalani, and she was named heir apparent if anything should happen to him. And boy, did they have plans for Hawaii. And Liliuokalani, if she had her way, would not let that happen. And we're going to get to know her and the enemies and all of these people in the next episode of Hawaiian Annexation.
I can't wait to find out what kind of fever she dies of.
Yeah. And I don't know much about the
I'm going to make it my consumption.
Hawaii isn't currently part of the United States, is it?
Of course it is, yeah.
I'm joking.
It's like, what are you talking about?
It's like, I don't know how this is going to go, because...
You know, Chris, by the sound of things, you might be fit to be the next president of the United States.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
You don't need to know shit.
I'll be the president of all 50 states, even the freak states like Alaska and Hawaii.
The freak
And
states.
New
That's a
Mexico.
Simpsons reference. I've also been thinking about Homer with the big old pile of sugar this whole time.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's kind of hard
So
not
good.
to.
It's so good.
He literally becomes a sugar baron.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
Yeah.
Yeah. We're gonna get to know everybody. It's gonna be a wild ride, gang.
All right, everybody, that is our show. We, again, as always, are the History Boys. And you know what? I'm Christopher Wheaton. Still. Haven't changed the name. Maybe I will. You know, I'll be Derek. No less.
You're gonna go from Chris to Derek?
Yeah. Christopher Derek Wheaton.
I see.
you're gonna change your
Derek's-
middle name?
You're gonna change it to a middle.
Yeah.
You're gonna change your middle name.
Just change my middle name, but I'm gonna go by my middle name.
I see.
Well,
It's my initials will still be the same because my middle name is David.
Yeah.
well, okay. So you're changing very little.
Yeah, I don't have the energy.
It's kind of like buying new underwear. You feel the confidence from it, even if they don't.
Yeah,
Or if they don't see where the confidence is coming from. Anyway, I'm Tyler Armitage. I'm definitely not Keith Spunk. Okay, so if you get those messages telling you to sign up to the Fansly or the OnlyFans, and you see a lot of very close-up photos of a man's genitalia, that's not mine. That's not mine. And
We're gonna get really weird emails.
yeah. Well, if you're getting, I mean, if you're getting those, don't sign up. It's not me.
Yeah.
So
Don't sign up for that news.
yeah. You're gonna be getting, you're gonna be getting a lot of stuff in your junk folder. Okay.
a lot
But
of spunk
that
in your
being
junk.
said, if you want to fill our regular inbox, feel free to send us your questions, comments, and everything in between to historyboyspodcast@gmail.com. If you like the show or love the show, feel free to give us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify. Give us the old thumbs up on the YouTube, because we're also available there, and there's nothing wrong with that.
We've made it a big thing.
Like if you're watching it, if you're listening to it on YouTube, there's nothing wrong with you as a person.
nothing
Don't
wrong
worry.
with that.
No, there's nothing wrong with you, and that's why we put it there. We put it there just for you.
I'm saying there's nothing wrong with him, Barry.
Yeah. And the more I say it, I feel like the more everyone's treating me like.
Are we just
that's-
roasting the YouTube people now?
Anyway, no, you got a playlist, you got other things to do, or maybe you were listening to something, you were watching a video on the topic that happens to also be the topic of one of our episodes, and you fell asleep. Then you woke up and you said, "Hey, I'm listening to a podcast now. I guess. Well, this is pretty funny. I'm going to keep on going." Hey, we love
There
you
you
too, and there's a million reasons why, and if any of those reasons lead to you really, really wanting more, you can always sign up for a Patreon. As little as $1 a month will get you access to the Discord. $5 a month, you get the shout out. You get first 30-day access to every new episode of History Boys Presents the Tyler Armitrout Project, featuring Chris Wheaton. It's kind of
That's
a
me.
cool hangout show, a little bit of supplemental material. We revisit past episodes and such, and sometimes we have guests, and but it's always a good time. I think that's everything housekeeping wise. Tyler Armitrout, not Keith Spunk.
Yeah.
Indeed. And I am, of course, Jerry Nash, your humble history boy. As always, thank you for listening. Yeah, I love all of our listeners. I don't care where you listen to us.
I don't care
or
where you
if
look,
you talk to
where
us.
you live, what you look like, what color your toenails are.
We love you all the same. And yeah, if you are a Patreon supporter, we love you as well. It truly keeps us on the internet. It keeps us in Spotify, on Apple, and it also pays for research material like the books that I recommend to you. So thank you to all of our Patreon supporters. You know who you are.
And if you listen to the show long enough, maybe we'll even get Zach back someday. He just left for tour again. I wanted to bring
Zach
that
is
up.
back on tour with Mr. Gary Newman. The
Again,
illustrious Gary Newman.
with his best
again.
buddy Gary Newman.
His best friend. Gary
Howling
His
Newman.
best friend.
Yeah.
Making
I will-
quesadillas and shit.
Yeah,
Yep.
they're
having a really
it is
nice
a little.
vacation.
It's telling that I see pictures of them on jet skis. I see pictures of them drinking pina coladas with no rum.
Right.
Right. And they're doing a new podcast called History Dudes. And,
Him and Gary Newman.
yeah,
History
it's
podcast.
Zach, Gary Newman. I don't know, a couple other guys from the band. They're in there, and
They're in there.
yeah.
And it's pretty good.
History Dudes with a Z. It's
they
great.
do a really good job.
yeah, I mean, yeah, they do a great job. They're even putting their
Okay.
show up on YouTube. So
Yeah. That's their main thing.
yeah,
Yeah.
they're doubling down on the YouTube thing.
No
It's
video
not really
component. Still just audio.
Yeah, it's still just
Yeah.
audio with the thumbnail, but
Yeah.
you know,
And they do it, in their spare time,
Yeah.
aside from touring, Europe and going to all these amazing places. So
Yeah.
anyway,
we miss you, Zach.
No, I miss Zach. I mean, I just saw him the other day at that wedding, but I miss him.
yeah,
Love you,
then
bye.
flew out like the next day. See, that's why we.
We'll see you next time. For the history wants whatever.